When will you stop struggling? Today, I will once again tell you how to manifest everything you want, but I will do it by telling you how to become like a baby. What do I mean by that? Let's talk about it. Firstly, I will read some quotes from scripture. Then I will draw the exact model on my iPad that you need to implement in your life and do before visualization. And then I will sparkle with it with testimonials, I think. But first off, it's very important to understand what I said in the beginning. When will you stop struggling? Because when you ask me, Chris, is it really that easy to manifest? I want to say to you, what do you think? Right? What do you think? When will you say it? When will you say it's easy? Because your struggle, your lack of ease, everything, it is external world. And if you have just been listening to me for just 5 minutes, you know external world does not lead. It follows. So if you say, but I struggle, you decide to struggle. There's no one to convince in the entire world of how you're going to manifest, except for you. Or to put it in another way, it is in the way that you know God that God knows you. It can be in no other way. You always create your reality. It's not sometimes. It's not a trick you employ. So it is important, no matter how big of a struggle you are in right now, that you don't go into the blame or shame game that you created it yourself, but you realize that you get to have an external world that does not match your internal world. And by doing that, you are leading. You are taking the leading role in this dance with life. All right. So let's jump into it. Okay. Let's jump on into the iPad. So here we go. I have called this document, When Will You Say It? And I have written what you should say. It is working. When will you say that? Because it is in that moment that you say it is working, that it is working. We've talked about this before, but the highest affirmation you can possibly say, and I'm somewhat joking, but it is really saying that this is working. Manifestation is working. I'm doing the correct thing. Then you're actually opening yourself up to that it is working. If you are pushing reality out, you need to first start realizing that you need to be okay doing that. You need to tell yourself, and this is how it works. So you need to come into total alignment with that. You do it by becoming a baby. So let me just, before I tell you the rest of it, we're going to talk about the famous doctor, point number one. We're going to talk about the baby state. What is that? We're going to talk about how to meet reality. And we're going to talk about the method to do before visualization to make visualization incredibly powerful. Okay? So let's jump into that. Firstly, I will tell you some quotes, just quickly. Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. This is very important. And listen to the next one. Mark 10:15. Truly I tell you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it. What does this mean? Actually, this sentence is enough for this video. But let's continue. Corinthians 3:18-19. Do not deceive yourselves. If any of you think you are wise by the standards of this age, you should become fools, so that you may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight. Right? This last one, very, very powerful. The wisdom of the ego of most people, what they think is reality creation, is foolishness in God's sight. Right? So you should become like that fool. You should become a fool in the eyes of outside world, which means you should go to God. You should listen to the inner man. All right. And similar, but not quite, from the Quran, Al-Baqarah 286. God does not burden any soul beyond what it can bear. This is like the childlike surrender to divine order, right? Next one, 1785. They ask you concerning the Spirit. Say, the Spirit is of the affair of my Lord, and of knowledge you have been given but little. Right? What this is basically telling us is that the intellect, the thing you have brought on yourself, all the labels, all the high IQ stuff you have been doing, it cannot comprehend the essence of the Spirit. It cannot. You cannot go there intellectually. To figure out the plan of your manifestations, to solve this, you cannot. You don't need to. Yes, so really reconnect with the innocent unknowing. But let's talk about it. I will now write it down. First off, let's talk about the famous doctor, right? The famous doctor. I had a client come to me. And he said to me, Chris, I'm a doctor. I'm procrastinating. I'm not succeeding. I struggle. This and that. Long story. And then he told me, and we had a couple over. One of my friends and his wife. And both me and my wife, we were quite jealous. They had it all. He's also a doctor, but he had it all. He was hardworking. He just got all the right deals. And he also had a way higher price. They traveled all over the world. They had everything. And the wife had the new bag, the new jewelry, whatever, right? And I stopped him. I said, hey, wait a second. When will you start telling that story about yourself? When will you take their story and put yourself, you and your wife in it? When will you do it? But it's not true, he said. What is not true? That external reality is not reflecting it to you? No. But we are here to manifest. We are here to create a new reality. You won't do it by doing that, right? You will hurt yourself, right? And I did not ask him to change his story about his friend. I said, keep that, because you're really assuming great of him. But you need to change the story about yourself. Why do you think your friend is a hard worker? Do you think he's a hard worker without the assumption that he is? And my client says, no, that's impossible. I said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. He has no free will to take any action besides from what is within his worldview, his assumption. So he had at some point, maybe a parent gave it to him, or he changed it himself. Hey, I'm a hardworking individual. I am deserving of this high price. And then he chose to dwell in that assumption, and then he just took the actions. And the actions was inspired action, like every action is. It is always inspired in your assumption. So if your action is not working, then maybe the action is just working out in your current assumption. Right? So he said, okay, so but don't I need external confirmation? I said, no, you don't. You need to become like a baby. Lose all the labels about yourself. Start over. Really take that story from scripture, crucifixion, being reborn, take that into your own life and say, I will crucify old me, that's no longer me. And I will be reborn to a new day and a new moment and a new reality. I'll go in that direction from now on. Yes, that's exactly what you should do. You need to become like a baby again. You need to go to that childlike state where you are not telling yourself a story that's not true. I know it feels very true. You're telling yourself a story that you've been telling yourself your entire life. You're building it on memories that you get to change. You're building it on, but I always procrastinate. Yes, and you will continue doing so if you say that. Stop saying that. Go way beyond external reality and tell exactly the story that you would like to play out, because you're writing this book. You're writing this book of your life with every word, with every feeling, with every movement, with every thought. You're writing it. So write it properly, right? Write it like you mean it. Take control of your life right now. And every time you have a thought, hey, I struggle, tell yourself, no, I don't struggle. Old me struggles. I see struggle. I'm so used to listening to the word struggle that I think it's me, but it's not me. Okay? So that's the famous doctor. And it took him 6 months to get a TV deal. A national deal that was so big that it was that moment where, and he told me, hey, Chris, this is the moment where I don't ever have to worry about money again. Yeah, that is how it goes. He wrote that book. He wrote that story himself. That's so powerful. So let's talk about the baby stage next. What is the baby state? The baby state is simple. Right. Baby state. Right. This is you. And you go through life and you attach yourself to labels. But you are this holy being when you're born. And you attach yourself to anger because your mom tells you that you're always angry. And you attach yourself to math because your dad tells you that you are good at math. And you attach yourself to work hard because you see your dad working hard, or you attach yourself to multiple things, right? This is not really important. I could write lack as well. What is important is that the baby state is the state before any other state. It is the 0 point of your being. It is pure consciousness in your vessel, right? It is you not remembering these labels. And I'm not talking about actively not remembering them, but not accepting them anymore, knowing them to be past labels, but not future labels, not present labels, because you get to pick in this now moment. You get to pick your own labels because they don't need confirmation. You think that all of this is confirmation, but it's the other way around. These labels are putting you in a direction. They are the direction of your life. They are not actually the end of the direction you walked in. They are preceding the direction. All right? So what you should do to become a baby is very simple. You need to go back to that state. You need to go back to that state where you're just green abundance, that baby-like state. And but what do you do with that? So how to meet reality? Number 3, right? Because what you do right now, when this is you again, and you go and you see a bill, right? Then you don't meet that bill with a baby state, right? You meet it with old perception. So you bring along a story. You bring along a story that makes it worse. But I always do like this. I can never pay my bills. Then you remember the last time you didn't pay it, what happened, the struggle, the feelings. You go through all these states in your head that you used to occupy, right? But you need to meet it like a baby. And then you get to pick a label. And you say, but okay, I can say whatever I will about this. This does not really affect me. So what should I do? I should think the thought that aligns me with paying the bill. So I need to manifest the solution for the bill, not the problem of more bills. All right. So when I meet the bill, I get to decide. And actually, the decision is very easy to make because you actually just have to listen to your system. And you have to see, okay, what feels best? Is it that I can't pay it or that I can pay it? Okay, if I can't pay it, it feels bad and it makes me think bad thoughts. But thinking the other thought actually feels good. And what that means is that you are aligning yourself with the representation of yourself that your higher self, God, Allah, consciousness believes in. Well, okay, it feels good, then it means it's true. Okay. So I will think that thought. And it won't affect the bill right now. But that's good. It's good that you know that you can actually decide on thinking bad or decide on thinking good, and it won't change the outcome. Because a lot of people tell themselves, but I need to be realistic. Well, that thought will hurt you, and it won't solve anything. Actually, if you believe in this stuff, it will make it worse. So think, but also just in without believing in reality creation, without knowing this to be true, it can only hurt you thinking bad thoughts. You won't come up with the solution thinking bad thoughts about it. So you will meet it like in a baby state, and you will say, okay, I will say, it is done. Just like Neville would say, right? It is done. I can pay these bills. I pay all my bills. I make plenty of money all the time. So I will, as a baby, just go on into it. And you'll do the same when you meet a person. And he tells you a story, right? With your current perception, you will immediately think, is that a story about me? Does he not like me? What does he think about me? Whatever it is, right? But you will immediately turn to, oh, that's not what a baby would think. When I meet reality, I need to know that I'm creating this reality when I meet it. So I will assume the highest of myself. I will determine what this person thinks. And it does not matter if it complies. Simple. I can pick my own internal representation. And I know that for some of you guys, it will feel like that you have to be mentally strong to do it, but it's try it out. It's really the beginning of the rest of your life. It's a decision. The decision to think another thought than what external reality shows you. It's a new thought, maybe to your system. It is, however, as true, because you're always correct in assumption. So if you say the bad stuff that you're used to, that's correct. But if you say the good stuff that you are now getting used to, that's also correct, right? And that's the same here when you meet. It's the same person meeting different things, right? Now you meet struggle, and you decide, okay, that struggle, do I know it? And the moment I know it, I'm not a baby. The moment I recognize it, yes, it is because I'm attaching that story, what I'm seeing, to a label in my head, and you get to pick. So you get to say, but the struggle is not mine. Outside reality is telling me something that I don't identify with. So it's not a struggle. I will say I'm not struggling. And by doing it, you are really, really being powerful. You're actually totally removing it, and you will see it that if you start doing that, believing your own story, that every bad thing, contrast, is actually a teachable moment, getting you the desire you want. The same thing with the bill and the person and the struggle is that you can see it as it is. You can accept it as your creation. You can meet it in physical reality, but you should not attack it with anything other than your baby state. Just your state of, oh, I love this world. I'm new to this. Let me pick my own perception. Let me use my fantasy. Let me go play dragons with my friends, right? Really, go back to that childish. Maybe add some humor to it, right? Maybe stop knowing it like a kid would. Like, I don't know what a bill is. Let's move on with life. It's being taken care of. The person, right? If you have kids, you know what I mean. When your kids ask you, why did that person say that thing, or where you are being confronted with the absurdity of labels that you know to be true. You know why that guy yelled at you in traffic because a long story, right? But telling it to your kid, totally innocent kid, you recognize, but that's so lovely that my kid does not know this story because it's a false story of false labels where people attach themselves to an ego that they do not need to, a struggle that they do not need to attach themselves to. And you know what? Meeting these things in this way takes care of most of manifestation. But we will still need to talk about visualization. But meeting life just with a general perception of, but I get to have it all. I'm new to this. I have no bad ideas about anything. I'll just attack it as we go. And I will, like a kid would automatically assume that parents would take care of things, you do the same with God, or Allah, or Source, or infinite intelligence, or higher self. That you rest on that knowing. When you step on that plane, you just know, but I am flying with God. So it does not, I have nothing to be afraid of. Or when you go to that job interview, you also go to that job interview knowing that God is sitting there with you. Say, so I cannot do anything wrong. I can rest assured that if I get this job, I'm supposed to, and if I don't get it, I'm not supposed to. Everything happens in my favor. So if I don't get it, it's because God is saying there's something better for you. Right? So really becoming like a baby is actually bringing God along with you. Right? Because God is the point of no labels. He is way above that. Right? So, visualization. Let's talk about it before we wrap this up. Visualize. Boom. So, there's a few key points to do before visualization. And we are at 20 minutes. We'll soon be done. Okay. When you go to visualization at night, as Neville would tell you, as anyone would tell you, or in meditation or whatever you do, you are not creating anything. You are viewing a future memory. Right? You're viewing a scene. Your higher self, God, is giving you exactly a scene that's going to play out. You don't actually have to struggle for that scene. I would recommend that you don't think about what you want to create, but you just let your head create it. Like, actually, you're letting God create it for you, because your desires are known. So when you close your eyes, try to visualize just your end goal, your dream desire, everything planning out, what comes to you, and start playing with it. What is important is that you don't bring labels, that you actually don't try to create a scene from a label that you bring, right? So, firstly, become a baby, which means I have heard you guys talk about it, but I'm visualizing paying a bill of $500. And while I really see the need to pay that bill for you, I understand it, see that you have a much greater job to do with your life than paying this bill. And you can actually assume a state instead of assuming a how. Because assuming a how won't work, because the how is up to God. You cannot grab the spirit with your intellectual mind, which is the how. You can occupy a state of abundance where you know that God, consciousness, source will solve it for you. So you are moving. You are going into visualization with not a baby state, with the perception that you don't have enough and that you can't pay this bill. So you know you need to solve the problem of this bill, which is not becoming a baby. So I will rewrite the scene. I'll say, but I will find a scene that is worthy of God. And I will put him to the highest ideal. And by doing that, I will put myself to the highest ideal. I will think I'm worthy of everything because God told me I am. Right? God created man in his image. Right? So before visualization, really become a baby. Really go to the zero state, and you can do it by just telling yourself that you're leaving labels. Closing your eyes and breathing out, and every time you breathe out, leave labels. If you have very strong labels, quantify them in your head and tell yourself, I'm leaving that, I'm leaving that, I'm leaving that, I don't have it anymore. I'm just becoming the consciousness that was before all of it. Right? going to that I am state, going to be an extension of God in human form. Okay. So you go into that baby state, and from there you get to pick all the labels, and those scenes will arise naturally to you. Right. And then you will act like a baby. In that scene, you will act like a baby. And that means that you will enjoy it, just like a kid running in a field, concerned about everything, right? Not in a bad way, but looking at the grass, looking at the bees, touching it all, right? Laying down, rolling around, and, just enough so that a parent would say, oh man, you're ruining your clothes, or something, right? Be like that in your scene. Explore it. So if you're sitting, I don't know, if you want a car, just take this simple example, because this is a simple example I've talked about before, and I actually had a client do this. He wanted a car, and in his garage, he was visualizing it, and I said, but get to know the car, get to know every little detail about it, and get to wash it in your driveway, and feel the water and the soap that really makes your hand feel funny and wrinkly. Smell the, I don't know, lavender or whatever you're using. Know how the car changes when you wash it. Notice how the water is falling off the car. And notice that your neighbor is asking you, wow, where do you get that? How fast is it? Right? Really just explore it like a baby. What could happen in the scene that would make it more real? And you begin by doing just senses and people. That's the easiest step to take in the beginning. Add people telling you stuff and you telling them stuff. And add senses. What do you smell? What do you see? How does it feel? Is it hot? Is it hot? Is it cold? Right? Really explore that scene like a baby. Act like a baby in that scene. Okay? And then thirdly, sleep like a baby. And what do I mean by sleep like a baby? I mean dwell in that scene before going to bed. Get yourself to the point of smiling, knowing it's true. You're not creating anything. It has already been created. You are watching a future memory. And now you know it, and you know it even better, that this is how it's going to play out. And now the bridge of incidents is setting up. And you really get to sleep like a baby. Oh, it was that easy. Yes. So when will you start saying it? You will start saying it now. You'll start saying it's easy, because it is. And when you see struggle, what do you say? It's easy. I don't have struggle. And what do you say when you see the bank account, when you see the bill? I'm too rich to care about that. Right? And you do it with everything else in reality. All right? Thank you so much for tuning in. It's 26 minutes now, and we are done. Get out of here. Bye.